All right. Roulette episode number 3.
Oh, shoot.
We're going right in.
Jumping in.
We're going. I'm gonna see which one clings to my fingers.
Which one's grabbing?
Nothing is grabbing, so I'm just gonna have to grab one. Oh, it's a big one. Oh, no. It's a big boy. Okay. I don't know why it's so big because the line is very small.
You cut them, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Never feel bad about what you do if it was a conscious decision.
That's maybe a horrible rule.
I think that might be a bad one. I don't think so. I mean, people make conscious decisions and then the result of it makes you go, that was bad. I feel bad.
I think the word never is the problem.
That is a bad word. Never feel bad about what you do if it was a conscious decision.
Spoiler alert, there's a rule in there that says seldom speak in absolutes.
I thought it said never speak in absolutes.
Yeah, I had to change that.
All right, so is this a burn? Are we going to get to burn one finally?
I think
this is bull.
Okay.
This is bull.
Read it again.
Never feel bad about what you do if it was a conscious decision.
Okay, can I at least tell what I think the heart of that was?
Yeah.
Because I do agree that's pretty terrible advice.
Okay.
That's a horrible
What
rule.
was the inspiration behind it though?
It was that if you make your decisions consciously, then you shouldn't regret those decisions because they're at least ones that you made. Mm-hmm. So the obvious rebuttal to this would be like, if you make a bad decision and it's a conscious decision that you made, you should feel bad about that.
Right.
So I think the rule's nonsense.
It's trash.
It's complete trash.
Burn pile.
The sentiment is like, if you make a decision, you take the time to think it through. Don't regret that decision.
Yeah.
Don't be upset that you made that decision. Be like, I made this decision.
Right.
This is my decision.
Well, it helps you make better decisions if you are thinking ahead going, will I regret this? And then, you choose a better decision. And this kind of plays into, for the Christians out there, do you remember those D.W.J.D bracelets?
No, what are you talking about?
Yes, you do. They were like woven fabric, at least the ones I had. So it was basically to make you think if you were to be Jesus. I mean, that's how I saw it. Maybe that's sacrilegious. I don't know. Or what's the word? Blasphemous. It makes you think, what would my hero in life, if you're a Christian and Jesus is your hero, what would he do in this situation? And so it was this constant reminder. And I truly think that was actually something that helped a lot of, at least like teenagers and stuff.
That was probably the best movement Christianity had when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of different things and movements and stuff, but I feel like D.W.J.D was so beneficial.
Yeah.
Because it really made you responsible for like your decision, saying, if I was Christ, if Jesus was me living my life, how would he act? That's an amazing way of living your life. Makes you conscious of every decision.
I'm going to burn this and then we'll have the new replacement at the end of this podcast.
I think I have a lighter in my bag. You could just burn it right now.
I'm scared of burning it in a place with no windows.
It's not like we're surrounded by curtains.
Flammable things everywhere. Burning. I have to do this way. Okay, we got a clinger.
There you go.
Here we go. It's like a little octopus grabbing onto me. Those little tentacles. Oh, shoot. I got 2. Which one? Right or left?
Right.
Right hand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is a little guy. Oh, this is a good one. Make things better, not different.
Ooh. This is one I have strong opinions about this one.
Yes. Go ahead.
You want me to? Okay.
Yeah, you have strong opinions. Go ahead.
Well, working in creative, a lot of times we used to say things like, let's just change things for the sake of changing them. Mm-hmm. Like we do something so similar, like over and over again. We'd say, we just need to shake it up. We're sick of this. Like, I mean, that's part of working in a creative industry, I would say, is you're always looking for that next new thing, and anything that goes on too long becomes mundane. And so we would often be like, okay, let's change this thing because we just need to shake it up. Let's move all the furniture and let's do this whole thing. But eventually when you try to become more and more efficient, or maybe it's just the older you get and you're sick of moving furniture around for no reason, got to this place where we would argue about like which things we should do that are worth it and which things aren't. Because if you're in a place where you can just change anything infinitely, you have an unlimited amount of things to do, you can just do whatever you want all the time. What I found was that we would change things and then it wouldn't be better.
I think sometimes, though, it's a matter of opinion, because something can be changed and some may walk in and be like, oh, it's not good, or it's, whatever. But then some people may say, it's so much better, it's so much better. And so that's where I think this gets a little hairy, because it goes, is it objective or subjective? Better? How do you define what's better?
Well, okay, so for one of the places, one of the things that you have to do before this rule can actually be effective is you have to lay out what your objective is. So like, we'll take this podcast, for example. Our number one objective is to have the audio be good, because we can you could have no video and it'd be fine. But the audio needs to be clear. It needs to be balanced. It needs to be the right level. It needs to not be muddy. It needs to not be echoey, all that stuff.
Because the camera shots are the same. And if the audio, I like to look at it that way. If the visuals were changing constantly or something, like the audio can be a little less than, but it's a podcast and it's a conversation, so it has to be really good.
Well, let's make a decision. Like, we can put these things into sort of a hierarchy. So number one on the list is audio has to be good. Number two is it has to be, let's just say video is second to that. The lighting is second to that. You know what I mean? We can kind of like lay out what our priorities are. And then when we say, okay, let's change something, and it'll give us, it'd look really cool for us to sit outside with natural daylight and a huge landscape in the background and everything. And we could change it and we could do that. However, if our number one priority is that audio is good, that is not going to be the best thing. Even before, like a year ago, we had this kind of in a black abyss. And we didn't have any curtains or anything like that. It was just a big open room, which looked really cool in some ways. However, the audio was not nearly as good as it is now.
Yeah, it was echoey.
So we gave up a little bit of the look in some ways to make sure that the audio was the highest quality, so we could have a little more compression and everything like that. So we didn't change just because we were like, oh, we're sick of this black room, let's make it something with curtains. It was like, no, we need the audio to be better. That's what's most important. Therefore, we'll make this change because it's going to make something better.
So that's what I think. When a creative group of people does not necessarily have a leader, I think that's where things go a little crazy, because then everyone's opinions come in and everyone's saying, well, I think this makes it better. We say, what is it? So I think when everyone comes together on what the goal is, so for instance, one of big things that we've kind of all worked on for a long time, the group that we worked with, is a live performance kind of event every weekend. And one of the big things is make the sound good for the people in the room. And it's also being recorded and streamed online. So make that sound good. And then you go, okay, well, which one's more important? Do we mix for the people in the room or do we mix for the people online? And so there was a huge argument on, well, if it lives online forever, then obviously that should be important, right? Because the people in the room, there's a certain amount of people and it's only for that one experience, but you can rewatch it online and more people can watch it, whatever. And so there was a huge debate on which one was better. And ultimately what you realize is if there's people who are physically coming to your location, they're taking time out of their day to do that, we should probably make it really good for them.
Right.
So I think that's kind of where
you have to have that structure of what it is that you're trying to accomplish before this rule has any sort of...
Right. It needs to be laid out on, and that's why I said, is it objective or subjective? And I feel like once you figure out what that thing is, then I think everyone associated with that project needs to say that becomes the objective thing.
Ooh, the objective is the objective.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're laying out your objective, which then becomes the objective.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
I think so.
So it's not subjective once you lay out what is the objective.
Yeah. Is that the same word? Objective?
It's spelled the same way. I don't know.
I mean, you said you had a lot of opinions. Do you feel like you just kind of wrapped it up in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the goal with these things, these rules, is one, to know them, to memorize them if they're good, B, to live by them, and C, to be able to kind of like lay them out and not take a year to explain why that's a thing that you try to live by.
Yeah, I mean, some of these rules are going to be that way where we're like, wait, what was that? What do I? But this one is one that I think, because it applies to what we do every day, and because you have led a creative team for many years, I think you've honed in on that. So that's kind of something that you've understood for a while.
Change to make things better. Don't change just because you need to change them.
Right.
I wouldn't say that is true all the time. Again, seldom speak in absolutes. But
yeah, but I was going to say, there are some people who say change for the sake of change can spark something that then leads you to do something better.
I think if you... Oh, I just hit the wrong button and crossfaded.
Nice.
I think if you struggle with finding creativity, if you struggle with if that's something you
with
have
inspiration, I think.
Right. But, in our team at that point, we didn't really have trouble coming up with new concepts. We were seldom like bored and stagnant. It was always reining things back. Like, okay, no, we can't do that. Like, we don't have the money. We don't have the time. We don't have the, like, it was always constantly a pull back, not like we need to spark some new creativity. Yeah. We didn't really have that issue.
What were those three things that you always talked about? It's like time, quality, and cost.
You can have something, there's time. So how long something takes, quality, how good it is, and then expense, like how expensive it is. You get to choose two of those, but you can't ever have all three. Mm-hmm. So you can never have something fast, good, and cheap. Mm-hmm. You can have something good and cheap. You can have something, but it's not going to be high quality. You can have something
but it won't be fast.
Well, you can have something fast and cheap, but it's not going to be high quality.
Right.
You can have something high quality and fast, but it's not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
You can have something, whatever. You can basically choose two of those, but you never get all three.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't. That's something I think is pretty well known.
Yeah. You didn't come up with it, but that was something that we, in order to rein in on what was, quote, better, to find the objective thing that says, no. Let's say like this audio, let's all listen to it. Which one sounds better? Like, once you hone in on what that is, I think the way to get to that place is to say, what are those two out of the three things that we're going to be able to do? So for instance, again, with those live events, some of the ideas that came through were so expensive. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, if expense, let's take down the expense, which means now this is what we're playing with.
We either have to sacrifice quality or we have to sacrifice time.
Right.
So it has to be cheap. Therefore, it either is going to take us a long time to make it ourselves, or it is going to just be low quality.
Right. And
we've done both of those.
Yeah.
We've had things that take a long time, and we've had things that are just not good.
Right.
I like the rule.
Yeah.
It's one that I want to keep around.
Yeah, I like it too. All right, here we go. Oh no. This is a reader rule. I don't know.
Yes,
what this is.
Finally.
Oh, I like this one. Only say I love you if you mean it. So this, there's a very obvious thing where it's like the word love, I think for some people can be thrown around very easily. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think that's fine, because not everybody is going to hold the same kind of weight. Like for me, I hold the word love with weight because it means something, versus just if I meet somebody brand new and I'm like, oh my God, I love you, and I just constantly say it. What other word could I use when I actually mean like I have deep, deep affection for you and I really respect you as a person and I like don't want you out of my life. If I let that word go, I don't really know what could hold its place. That's kind of why I reserve that word for that. But also I think it comes from, in my family growing up, I really do not remember saying I love you. Maybe that's the reason why it still holds so much weight, because it was a rarely used word. And I'm not saying that like my family didn't love me, but it was just kind of one of those things that we didn't say. And we're not like really big huggers like now we are, because I don't really know why. I don't know why that happened. Like I wasn't really a big hugger in my life. And then I think maybe I had a friend that was a big hugger and I was just like, well, if I'm around her, then I like have to hug people. But it was a very interesting turning point, I think, with my siblings when like distinctly remember basically saying I love you to a lot of them, like at different times. And it's an interesting response to either not have it said back to you, or when they do, it's almost this, you break through this barrier that was there. And so, and I've also had friends, or not friends, but people that I've met, and when they say it to me too early, it turns me off. Like if I meet you and in the first meeting, in the first conversation that we have, and this happened to us, we had a kind of like a coworker say that at one point, like, oh, I just love you guys. And I remember going, oh, I don't trust you. Because if you're going to say that to me when you don't even know me, I don't trust you. I don't like when that word is just thrown around. And maybe I'm old fashioned, and maybe somebody listening will be like, that is so ridiculous. Like that's just an easy word to use, but not for me. I want to keep it kind of sacred.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that you need to have a certain amount of understanding someone before you can really even articulate to them that you love them, or that the word has any sort of weight. The more you understand somebody, the more you see them for who they actually are, the more even, you know, the weirdness or the annoyingness or whatever it is, and then you say you love them, I think it has more impact.
Yeah.
So yeah, not saying that so early in a friendship or a relationship or whatever. It's like, oh, I love you. Well, you don't even, it shows your ignorance of me then.
Yeah.
You haven't seen all of me, so you only love what you've seen so far.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll change as
Which
quickly
it's
as
a
quickly as it
performance.
came on. It
Right.
may turn off.
Yeah. You don't want to regret saying I love you to somebody because you've suddenly, you know, the second time you hang out, go, oh, there's something about you that I don't love. But again, I think that word to me, because it was a rarely used word, I think maybe, I don't know if I'm alone in this, or I don't really know kind of the reasoning behind it. So I'm not saying that like I'm better than people just because I hold that word with weight. Like that's just me.
And it feels weird when you get pressured into saying I love you to like a friend or something like that.
Yeah.
Somebody that you don't typically say things like that to, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, they said it to me, and I feel obligated to say it back.
Yes.
It gets a little weird.
And it's not, this is what I think is sad though, because there are some friends that I have that do say that to me, and I don't, it's very hard to say it back because I think it's just not a practice thing for me. And because it is such a big thing, like I make that decision to say it and I'm not used to saying it, it's kind of foreign, that I feel bad. I do absolutely feel bad when somebody says like, I love you, goodbye, or whatever. And it's like,
But there's also people that you kind of have to break into that. It's good to have that discomfort and to be like, hey, love you, bye.
Yeah.
And you're like, I love you too. Like I've known you now long
Yeah.
enough. You know, we've been together, we've hung out, we've gotten to see each other's best and worst. Like that is a good thing. I think to never say it, if you err too far on never vocalizing that, you may have some regrets someday when that person's not around anymore, and you're like, man, that was a good person. They were good to me.
Yeah.
They saw me for who I was, and I don't have people like that around anymore. Maybe they move away or pass on or whatever, and you may have regret if you don't say it when it is appropriate.
I oftentimes will be thinking it, like I wish I could say it back. Like that is a huge step that I've also taken, which is why it's a rule for me, where it's like, getting to that step of being able to say it means I've overcome something in my own specific psychology where it's like hard for me to do it. But for like you, I like refuse to accept a very quick like there's some couples that I know where they specifically like they're getting off the phone, they're like blah, 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 blah. And it's like I didn't even hear the word love come out of your mouth. I know you were probably attempting to say it, and I remember telling you like I want you to say I love you, and I want to hear it, because then
said no crazy woman ever.
No. It's not because of that. It's because it plays into my fear, which is if I never get to hear you say it again, I want the memory of hearing you say it. Like every single day, I know in my mind when I have said I love you and when I've heard it back. I want to make sure you have heard it from me just in case something happens to me, and I want to make sure I hear it from you. That's just what it is. And like, talking to my mom and stuff, I know for her, it's like she wants to hear me say it multiple times, and she wants to say it to me multiple times because I know it means so much to her. And also I think because maybe when it unlocked in our relationship, when finally it was like, I love you. And it was like, oh, this is a thing we say now. I think it unlocked something in her that was like, I need that now. Like that now I see.
And it's okay to need that. I don't think there's anything wrong with.
Especially for a mother and a child. Like, absolutely. Yeah. We both just said the same thing. Crazy. Yeah.
One more.
One more? Okay.
2 more.
All right. What are you? Aw. I like this one.
Okay.
Don't just listen, look. In the age of cell phones, I think that's very important.
I wrote that one?
You wrote that one.
This is obviously one I haven't been putting into major practice since.
I mean, you know, like when we go to dinner, which we haven't because of, not being able to go to places. I do like to say, flip your phone over or put it away so that when we're talking, we actually can look at each other.
Definitely. I think that's a really good way of reading that rule. It's not specifically why I wrote it.
Yeah.
So I wrote it, I remember now. Somebody told me, like, you need to listen more. You need to stop like talking so much, and you need to, I have good friends, that is the sign of a good friend. But you need to listen more than you are talking. And so I took it upon myself to start listening. But with that, I started looking around as well. Like, okay, I need to listen to people's personal stories. I need to listen to the anecdotes. I need to make sure that I'm not stuck in my own weird echo chamber or whatever on any idea or anything. I need to always look at both sides. I need to be a person that participates in nuanced conversations, all those things. But just listening and just hearing somebody's experience or personal stories and everything like that, and not looking and saying, okay, but what is? Does every personal story reflect the mass? Does it reflect reality? And making sure that you're not just living by listening, but also looking and saying, okay, I need to pair both of these things together. And often you hear this, like with anything that's controversial, people want to go straight to the data. Well, look at the data. And they don't care about anybody's personal experience. And then on the other end, you have this more compassion in which is like, but listen to these stories. I don't care what the data says. One's too many. You know what I mean? Like, It's always this push and pull about anything that's happening. But I think it's both. I think that you have to do a good amount of both. You have to listen and empathize and care about people's personal experiences, stories, and everything like that. And you have to look and say, okay, but what is it that's happening in reality? And I think having one of either of those things is not good. I think you have to have both look and listen. And it's the same. It's illustrated perfectly in what you were saying with the whole cell phone thing. If you go to dinner or you're sitting with someone, don't just listen to them, look at them. Often I'll be with somebody who I'm talking to, or even in our relationship, you'll be talking to me. I'll pick up my phone and look at it.
Or you'll just get a text and your immediate thing is to look at that thing that interrupted. Like, oh, I'm going to look there, versus saying, no, the thing that's happening right now is the priority. It's the objective. It's to talk to the person that's already in the midst of it versus looking away. But I think that's a habit. I think everybody has this ding sound and you look at that thing because it's capturing your attention and because that's the dopamine hit, like the new information that's coming to you. But I do want to say, what does it look like to listen to somebody without looking? Or to look at somebody and not really listen to them, because you say you need both of those. For me, I have a habit, but it's also an interest in reading the psychology of people. And I think that I can take that too far to the point where I go, yeah, what you're telling me right now is bull. And I'm seeing on you the signs that you're hiding something from me, or you're not being honest, or you're speaking vaguely. And I start to wonder, why is that? And so I think it's really interesting, though, when you can read people. I think it makes you more empathetic, because if somebody is lying and if somebody is not telling you the truth, instead of going, ooh, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to catch you in this, which sometimes I have done, and I'm not proud of myself for doing that. But sometimes you hear it and it makes you go, okay, there is something more here. So I'm not going to pressure them into being honest with me, because maybe there is a reason that they're hiding this. Maybe they're not ready to talk about it. So I need to take this in and allow them to say it and allow them to be who they are, and then just keep it in the back of my mind that says maybe they're going through something.
Right.
So like I can be okay with this. And I also think sometimes if you're like, tell me if this happened and somebody's lying, you can absolutely pressure them if you need to know that information. I'm not saying like somebody lies and you go, okay, that's fine.
Well, and I think you just have to, again, it comes back to the balance. I think it's a well-written rule, actually, now that I think about it, because it's don't just listen, but look. But it could easily be the opposite, depending on the day. Don't just look, listen.
Yeah, yeah.
And depending on your personality and kind of the way you're bent, whether you're more compassionate, more agreeable, if you're more controversial, you're more, what's the word, disagreeable. Mm-hmm. I think all of those kind of come into play.
Actually, so we watched, and I'm not going to get political because that is not my area of expertise whatsoever. I feel like that's not my area. But we watched TV for the first time in probably like 10 years, honestly. I have not watched TV in so long.
What a wild experience.
It really was a wild experience. But one of the little segments that they had was mask etiquette. And before the segment started, I go, are you serious? This is a thing now? But the woman who was telling people what to do, I loved what she had to say, because she was basically like, this is what you got to do. Worry about yourself. And if somebody is not following the rule that you have in your mind, let's say you are very adamant, everybody needs to wear masks, or you're very adamant, nobody should be wearing masks. Either way, don't expect other people to follow your rule. You can follow your rule. And here's how to keep the peace. Let them do what they're going to do. You can distance yourself from them. You can wear your mask and make sure that you go around them. You can take your mask off and just don't make them feel uncomfortable if somebody's like, hey, don't come near me. The point is, worry about yourself and don't expect other people to have the same thing in their minds that you have in your mind.
Well, I think one of the things that she said that was so true was you're not going to change their mind.
Right.
They already made their decision on how they're going to act and how they're going to live and how they're going to do their thing. You coming in to their space and saying, oh, well, you need to do it differently. They're not going to just go, oh, okay, well, now that you confronted me,
yeah,
now I'm going to do it differently. Like,
right.
It's not going to have any positive effect.
And
I
she
think
was like, with the holidays coming,
yep.
Make sure that you don't ruin your relationships with family and friends, because you guys are going to be coming together. So just...
I think that's so good, like the communication. My buddy Philip texted me yesterday. He's like, hey, how are you feeling about things? Like, I'm going to be in town. Do you want to get food, coffee? Are you staying outdoors, indoors? Like, what's your thing? How are you feeling about things? Yeah. And it's nice to just have that conversation up front and just allow people, hey, I'm really paranoid about this, or hey, I'm not paranoid at all about this. Everybody has their different reasons for why they're acting the way that they are.
Right.
And allowing them to talk to you about it and not just say, well, it's one way or the other. It's this binary that you have to fit into. Saying, okay, how can I serve you? How can I do right by you?
Right.
If I care about you, then I care about the way that you see this thing. But let's be cordial. Let's be reasonable. Let's not shame each other one way or the other. That whole thing is just so, I don't know.
And that's what she said. She's like, communication is key.
It is.
And this one lady was like, I had a backyard party and I made sure I sent something out beforehand that said, we're going to enter through the backyard. We're going to all be distanced. Masks are, you can wear them, but we'll be distanced, so you can take them off if you want. It's outside. And everyone knew, I don't want people in the house. Everyone just knew what to expect beforehand. And it was fine. And I'm like, why can't we just allow people to have their own opinions and not feel as if they are right or wrong?
But for the most part, I think we do. I think that most people are living together and they're treating each other like that, and it's peaceful and it's harmonious. And we like to amplify and elevate the kind of dystopian view of everything, because that's what's exciting. I mean, you're not reading a bunch of heartwarming stories about two normal people that went out to lunch and had a good time and had slightly different opinions.
Right.
Who cares about
boring.
that? That's just what happens every day,
Just like drink responsibly is a thing. I think you should scroll responsibly and watch responsibly, because what you are being given is affecting you emotionally. And if it's a bad emotion, you can look away. You can turn it off, and you're not going to miss out on anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to get political.
I was going to say.
And we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.